The Arkansas football team may be on a bye week, but you know who's not? The Arkansas Razorback baseball team. The Diamond Hogs will be hosting the Oklahoma State Cowboys in a 2-game exhibition series here at Baum-Walker Stadium this weekend. We're going to preview a little bit of that action as well as recap some of the weekend's developments on this episode of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So over the weekend on Friday, the Arkansas Razorbacks did what they call their Fall Classic. It's like a yearly tradition now with the Arkansas baseball program. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with that, but for those that are not, they basically just do what they do every week, which is have an inter-squad scrimmage against themselves, but they invite fans to come out, which again, happens every week. You can always come watch this team scrimmage if you're in the area, but they open up concession stands, although I will say, they only opened up one concession stand, and they had, it was a really nice turnout. Probably 5,000-6,000 fans there to watch, basically a scrimmage between the team playing itself. I took my lady out. We had a great time. Only one concession stand open, which was a little bit of an issue. That line was really long the entire time. But I think that just tells you how much this Arkansas fan base loves their baseball, how much this state really rallies around this program, which is always awesome to see. And so you had a bunch of fans come out there for, many of them, their first real look at the team. And Arkansas did something a little bit interesting, something that they do in a lot of fall practices. And Dave Van Horn has admitted to this publicly. He says, sometimes I like to load up one of the teams, Cardinal versus Gray is what this matchup was. He likes to load up one of the teams with what he believes is the starting lineup. It's kind of his first crack. And look, it's October 7th. So there's no definitive starting lineup. Even the one I'm about to read you is not, set in stone or anything like that. Arkansas has also got a couple guys injured, a couple guys that didn't play. And so that affects it a little bit. But for the most part, this was pretty much starters versus reserves. And so I think that, DVH likes to do that just to kind of see how these guys react to it. And it paints a nice little picture for the fans of kind of where this team is at least at this point in the season. Now, again, there's a lot of time between October and February, and even February to April, March, or May, June. Like, there's a lot that's going to evolve with this baseball team. But if you've been watching this podcast, the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, and reading some of the reports, this probably wasn't a massive shock to you. But we did get our kind of first look at the Arkansas lineup, and here's how it read. Leading off, you had Charles Davalon in center field, the Florida Gulf Coast transfer, who's really had an impressive fall. He's been as advertised, athletic, although he doesn't steal as many bases as some of his teammates who have really been active on the base paths here lately. Really above average defender out there in center field. And it looks like that's going to be the position he can stick at, which is a big, not a question mark, but that was kind of one of my stories to watch this fall was, hey, is someone going to merge as like the for sure center fielder? I would say Charles Davalon has done that. Shout out to the French Canadian. He is in the leadoff spot, which he's been in for pretty much every scrimmage of the fall. Behind him, you had Vahiva Aloy, the potential All-American shortstop. No surprise there, of course. Batting third, you had Logan Maxwell, who started in right field in this game. Now, he's the TCU transfer who hit over 200 or hit over 300 in two separate seasons at TCU. Yes, definitely over 200. And he started at DH for the Horned Frogs last year. Seems to be a pretty solid, I don't want to say a lock to be in the lineup, but it's just a matter of whether he's going to play left field, right field, DH, or what his role is going to be. But a really solid left-handed bat, makes contact consistently. He had a really solid performance in the Fall Classic as well. And he's gotten on base pretty consistently throughout fall practice. And cleanup, you had Brent Iredale, who, if you're probably about sick of hearing about Brent Iredale, if you've been watching the Locked On Razorbacks podcast here a lot lately, but he's the JUCO transfer from New Mexico, who's the Australian, and they had his walk-up song as the Land Down Under by Men at Work, which is great. Always love to see that. He started at third base. Nolan Souza in the 5-hole at second base, which again should not be a surprise to anybody who's been kind of keeping up with the developments here in fall practice. And anyone who saw him last year, you could see the talent. And everyone kind of knew there was a little bit of a battle between Nolan Souza and Cam Kojal, the Vanderbilt transfer there at second base. And Souza has been the better player throughout fall practice, pretty consistently, been pretty well-rounded, and he's gotten on base a good bit, showed off some power, and leads Arkansas in stolen bases as well, which is not something you should overlook. Well, he gets the nod at second base, and he batted fifth. Ryder Helfrich was behind the plate as expected. He's had a really good fall as well, and he had a massive home run in this scrimmage as well, so no surprise there. Now, here's where it gets interesting, folks. Now, pay attention. At first base, you had Reese Big Country Robinette, who I've been kind of tooting the horn for. He had a really good summer, coming off of a redshirt year after playing a little bit as a freshman, as a true freshman in 2023 for Arkansas. He gets the starting nod here at first base, which was really awesome. He also homered in this scrimmage as well. So we'll see if he's able to kind of solidify his spot. But I thought it really speaks volumes to the play that he's had in fall practice and really just the progress he's made since arriving on campus, that they put him in that starting lineup there in front of the fans and kind of to show him that they believe in him. And I thought that was really awesome. Good to see him hit a home run there. And then at the DH spot, batting eighth, you had Kahio Aloy, who, again, if you watch last week's show, really has come on strong here the last few weeks. Now, he had a rough go of it in this particular scrimmage. He went over with 4 strikeouts, which is the golden sombrero, not what you want to do. And, he and his brother Vahiva, strikeouts really don't bug them too much. They like to go up there deep sea fishing. They're big game hunters, if you will, at the plate. And so they'll strike out from time to time. And Kahio is not able to really get a good swing on one. But he did bounce back with a base hit in Sunday's scrimmage. So that was nice to see. But I think him being in this DH spot is a testament to how well he's been swinging the bat here lately and the kind of power that he can bring to this Arkansas lineup. And then at left field in the 9-hole, the freshman Brenton Clark, who has had kind of been a revelation a little bit throughout fall practice. At one point was leading the team in hitting. I believe Brent Iredale may have surpassed him because he had 3 hits in the fall classic. I believe he may have taken that title of the highest batting average on the team, but Brenton Clark has been really unbelievable. And he's really made himself, he's forced his way into this outfield discussion. And it's a loaded group there in the outfield. And so there's your first crack at what the starting lineup at least would be if Arkansas were playing an opponent, which conveniently they are doing on Friday. So we'll get another little bit of a crack. We'll see if there's any switches, any changes, maybe moving guys up and down, maybe moving a guy here or there. And we'll talk about the other lineup as well. But I thought that was interesting. And so it kind of vindicated some of the things that I've been saying to you guys on this program here, and just sort of how I felt watching it. And it made me know that I'm not crazy for thinking, hey, Brenton Clark is a very real candidate to start there in the outfield. So that's always really good to see. And I thought that was cool. And again, Kahio Aloy and Brenton Clark went over 3 with a couple strikeouts, and Kahio went over 4 with 4. So didn't exactly run away with their opportunity, but the fact that they were in there says a lot about how they've been playing this fall. And I imagine they're not going to be going anywhere. They're going to still be in that mix, whether they end up starting or not. And so that was really encouraging to see. And I thought it was just awesome to see so many fans show up and support the team, it's just great, man. Seeing a few people even came up to me and said, hey, you're the guy from the podcast, which always makes me look cool. When I'm with my girlfriend out at the park and you see me, definitely come up to me and say something, because it makes me look cool. It makes me feel good. And also, genuinely speaking, I just like to talk ball with anybody. And so it's always fun to see fans out there, and it's really cool to see the way that people rally around this team. So we're going to talk about a little bit more about what all went down at the Fall Classic and a little bit of a look ahead to what's coming next week with Oklahoma State coming to town. So stick with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to find the right professionals for your team fast and free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role if they're presented with it. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users do not visit any of the other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're probably looking in the wrong place. LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. You want to hire professionals. You want to do it like a professional. You do it on LinkedIn. Post your job for free. Again, that is free. You're looking to hire someone, you can post it on LinkedIn.com/lockedoncollege. That is LinkedIn.com/lockedincollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. So just a quick, we'll move on here in just a second and get to what you guys want to hear about, which is the big matchup with the Cowboys coming this weekend. But I did just want to touch on a little bit of what all went down at the Fall Classic, where you had the starters versus the backups, so to speak. So the starting group won 10-2, which Good sign considering you loaded it up and kind of set it up to where the top team would be all in the same squad, which they really haven't done. Typically, they do that a little bit throughout fall practice. So you can kind of see it coming. They have not really done that. This was their first inkling of doing that, and so that was cool to see. But they win 10-2. Charles Davalon has 2 hits out of the leadoff spot. Drove in a run as well. Vahiva goes 1 for 3 with a home run and a walk. Logan Maxwell scored 3 runs. Had 2 hits and a walk as well. Drove in a run. Brent Iredale has 3 hits. Did not hit a home run. So Brent Iredale, what are you doing, man? Leave the yard. That's what we came here to see you do. I kid though, but Nolan Souza goes 1 for 3 with a walk as well. Ryder Helfrich goes 1 for 3 with a massive 3-run home run. And Reese Robinette goes 1 for 4 with 2 runs driven in. He had a home run there as well. Shout out to Justin Thomas, who led off for the other team, which, by the way, I'll just go through this lineup real quick for Gray. You had Justin Thomas leading off in center field, Cam Kojal at second base, Carson Bowles, the D2 transfer. He was in right field batting third. He's had a really productive fall practice so far, although he did go over 3 in this scrimmage. You had Trenton Rowan at third base. He's been pretty solid. Michael Anderson at first base. Now, Michael Anderson is one of those guys that if you've been paying attention, he might have been one you expected to maybe see either in that DH spot or that first base spot with the starting group. He's in a little bit of a position battle there with Reese Robinette. And that you also have a right-left situation there. So hypothetically, those guys could be platooning there. You had Gabe Frazier at DH. He's been playing a lot of shortstop and doing a really good job. And I've been impressed with him just at the plate, in the field. I think he's a guy that can really contribute sooner rather than later. You had Zane Becker, who drove in a run with a single and also hit a huge 2-run home run on Sunday, which I believe were the only runs of the entire scrimmage. It was a very pitching-heavy scrimmage on Sunday. But Zane Becker, who I've been impressed with behind the plate and the work he's done as a defender, he's also showed off some power. I think he's a legitimate. I think Arkansas has they have something there with the freshman catcher out of Texas and Zane Becker. Colton Reynolds, the Crowder Junior College transfer, he went 1 for 2 as well. He started in left field. Elliot Peterson, who's kind of also in that backup catcher situation, transfer from the JUCO ranks as well. He was at DH. Tyler Holland, the two-way player, the Arkansas version of Shohei Ohtani, he was at shortstop, and Carson Willis was at DH. And Arkansas also had pretty much all their pitchers, not all their pitchers, but every pitcher that threw besides Cole Gibler and Dylan Carter threw 1 inning. Gabe Gackle was the starter for the Cardinal team. Gage Wood was the starter for the Gray team. And I actually thought about that. If I'm Gage Wood, I'm like, Coach, let me throw to the B squad. Don't make me throw to Vahiva Aloy and Brent Iredale and Charles Davalon, Logan Maxwell, all those guys who have seen me a ton before and, you know, are tough challenges. Let me get the other guys. But weirdly enough, both starters gave up at least 1 run. Gabe Gackle gives up the leadoff single to Justin Thomas, who I believe stole a base and then came around to score on a throwing error from Ryder Helfrich, which allowed that run to come in. So nobody drove in that run, but Gabe Gackle gives up 1 run in his inning of work. Gage Wood gave up 3 hits and 2 runs, which is a little bit interesting. But also, again, these guys have seen these pitchers a good bit. They've been throwing to these hitters a lot. And he faced the starting lineup. Landon Bidelshees, the Ohio State transfer, he came in after Gage Wood and looked really good. And I even texted, or I put it in a Discord. I was like, dude, Landon Bides looks really good. And then, of course, he gives up a home run to, I believe it was Davalon who got him for a home run off the performance facility and right, which is fun to see. And so that happened. Zach Root, who had been struggling a little bit, the guy that I've been honestly waiting to hype up. I hyped him up a lot before fall practice, the ECU transfer, who really had been having a rough go of it in fall practice, if I'm being honest. He gave up a quick hit, and I was like, oh, man, it's going to happen again. Comes back with 2 strikeouts. He throws a scoreless inning, which is good to see. I mentioned the freshman Cole Gibler, the pitcher. He goes 2 innings, was really, really good in his first inning, got through a scoreless second inning as well. He goes 2 innings, 2 strikeouts, 2 walks, no hits, no runs. So good outing on the day. But again, that's the kind of the consistent theme with him is first inning, really good. Second inning, a little bit less so. But we saw that a little bit. We see that with freshmen a lot, especially at this level. Saw with Gabe Gackle last year during fall practice. But Gibler, I'm a very big believer in his future. I also wanted to mention Dylan Carter, who went 2 innings, gave up a couple hits, gave up a couple walks, but he also struck out 3. His strikeout rate has been pretty solid, pretty consistent throughout fall practice. He's throwing 95. They had the radar gun for everyone to see. That was really good. Christian Fouch, who has thrown a couple times now as he's working his way back. He's now thrown 3 innings combined this fall. He threw 1 inning the other day. worked out of a little bit of a jam with a couple strikeouts. I believe Fouch has struck out 6 hitters in 3 innings of work. So that was kind of the one thing with him last year. He had a sub-1 ERA and not even 1 strikeout per inning. And for a guy that throws 100, you're a little bit like, how does that happen? It doesn't happen as much anymore. Now it seems like he's really putting hitters away with that splitter and getting ahead with that fastball, which is always nice to see. The most impressive pitching performance I saw out of anyone at the Fall Classic the other day was Carson Wiggins, the freshman, Jackson Wiggins' little brother, who we've kind of been waiting on. And he's another one who, if I'm being honest, it just hadn't gone great for him so far in fall practice, which, again, you see it happen a lot with freshmen. I thought it was a good sign that they put him out there in this situation, which, by the way, Gibler, Wiggins, Tag Andrews, and Lance Davis, the freshman right-handed pitcher, those were the only 4 pitchers to throw in this particular scrimmage, which, again, says a little bit about how they feel about those guys. I remember Gage Wood throwing at the Fall Classic a couple years ago, and I remember thinking, hey, that was a good sign that they threw Gage Wood, even though he's had a little bit of a rough go of it, and he clearly turned out to be the right choice. And so I thought it was notable that those 4 pitchers got the nod, although it did not go well for Lance Davis, who gave up 4 hits and 5 runs in his 1 inning of work. And, guys really got after him a little bit. But Carson Wiggins, 3 up, 3 down, struck out 2, was touching 96, 97 consistently. I mean, again, there's a lot of talent there. I think he's a guy that can really help Arkansas. I also have some home run metrics from the Fall Classic. So I mentioned that Davalon home run against Landon Beidelshees, 387 feet, 102 miles an hour off the bat. Ryder Helfrich hit his to like almost dead center, maybe a little bit left center. He goes 411 feet, 106 miles an hour off the bat against Tate McGuire, who's had a good fall. So nothing to scoff at. Vahiva Lloyd just absolutely torched his home run, 433 feet, 112 miles an hour. So Vahiva Lloyd, breaking news, good at baseball. Logan Maxwell shows off some raw power, which it was his first home run of all of fall practice. He and Tyler Holland were the only position players who had not hit a home run. Logan Maxwell was sick of that. He goes 421 feet, 106 miles an hour off of Lance Davis. And Reese Robinette, who goes 360 feet, 99 miles an hour off of Lance Davis. So really good stuff all around. I mean, it's just, and again, it's an inter squad scrimmage. So it's like, what are we really supposed to be taking from this? But overall, it was fun to see. And I just really love seeing the fans come out to support the team and get their first look at it. And you see some like fans kind of whispering when certain things happen. It's just cool as someone who's been in a lot of these scrimmages. And I'm not trying to like act like I know more than anyone, but it's just cool to like see fans get introduced to Brent Iredale, see them get introduced to Carson Wiggins, get introduced to Zach Root, and kind of get their first look at it. It's really fun to see. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what we want to see out of Arkansas this upcoming weekend against Oklahoma State and kind of thoughts on how they match up. Just kidding. I'm not going to do any matchup work in terms of what Oklahoma State's going to do, but we will talk about the matchup a little bit. So stick with us for one more segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Where are we at? Folks, it's game time. There is nothing better than attending a live sporting event, whether it's a concert, whether it's a football game. And if you saw the fun that Arkansas had storming the field against Arkansas in Tennessee this past weekend as they knocked off the number 4 Volunteers, you could have gone to that game for $50-$60 for a Section 502, those upper deck seats there. I even saw some the day before the game, about $120 for sections in the 100s. So we're talking about lower bowl legitimate seats available the day before the game. And the best way to do that is Game Time. Their Game Time Picks feature makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Let's see. Game Time Picks, its curation makes it easier to save money on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, all-in pricing. This feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkouts. You also get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, and the lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, what time is it, folks? It's game time. All right, so moving on just a little bit, and I spoke about it. Arkansas is hosting Oklahoma State this weekend for a 2-game exhibition series. It's going to be pretty similar to if you went to the Fall Classic. It's going to feel pretty similar to that. Maybe a little bit more theatrics here and there. Maybe they'll have the scoreboard working consistently, but concessions will be available for those that do want to attend the game. And this is the first you're hearing of it. Friday night. Again, Arkansas is on a bye week, so you don't have to compete with football, don't have to compete with anything else. On Friday night at Baum-Walker Stadium, Arkansas will host Oklahoma State at 6 p.m. Tickets are free entry. You just have to have clear bags, and you can't bring crazy stuff into the stadium. Can't bring food or drink from outside in, but they'll have concessions available there. Hopefully, they have more than one concession stand open, and something tells me that they will. But yeah, they'll play at 6 p.m. on Friday, and then they'll come back at noon on Saturday, which again, no Arkansas football game. So it should make it easy for you guys. So if you're in the area, absolutely come out and see the Arkansas Razorbacks play some baseball. Come see me. I'll likely be there. And if you see me with a beautiful, beautiful girl, that's my girl Hillary. So definitely come up and say what's up then, because she'll appreciate it and I'll appreciate it and I'll look cool. And again, let's just talk ball because that's what we're here to do. So yeah, definitely come out and see the Arkansas Razorbacks this weekend. It's rare that you get to see your favorite baseball team play a real opponent in the month of October. I mean, obviously, if you're an MLB team, then it's a little bit less rare. But I mean, for college baseball, man, this is a cool little thing they've been doing here lately. But in terms of actual expectations, I don't know if there's much. I don't think anybody should be going into this like, oh, I've got to see this. I've got to see blank. It's not going to be anything crazy like that. I imagine Arkansas is going to do similar to how they have done with the pitching really throughout all fall, but especially last week at the Fall Classic, where maybe 2 innings max for your top guys. I imagine most will throw 1 inning. And of course you've got, they haven't said yet. They haven't clarified if it's 2 9-inning scrimmages. I would assume it is. And I think DVH will probably be pushing for that, especially since, it's no longer where Arkansas has to field both teams. I imagine it'll be 2 9-inning scrimmages. So 18 innings of work. I imagine they're going to try and get as many pitchers in there as they can. And I also imagine they're going to do like they did against the Texas Rangers instructional team. If y'all remember, they played them in a 2-game series a couple years ago, where like one of the games they really threw all of the top arms, and then the next game they threw some freshmen and some other guys. But Arkansas's got so many arms, man, so many guys that they'll want to see pitch. And I think it's going to be cool to see some of them. I also am interested to see how it works. Speaking of the pitching, I'll just be honest. If we're talking about what we want to see this week from the Arkansas Razorbacks, I really want to see the pitching just kind of dominate. And on paper, there's a reason why most of these updates that I'm coming to you guys with throughout fall practice, I'm saying, hey, here are the cool things that have been happening. It's all hitting. It's because on paper, we kind of assume that Arkansas is going to be able to pitch pretty well. I mean, they were one of the best pitching staffs in the country last year. And of course, you're replacing a guy in Hagen Smith who's a dude. I mean, a guy you just don't replace. He is irreplaceable. But we still on paper with Root, with Beidel Sheets, with Gabe Gackelback, with Gage Wood back. I mean, Ben Bybee, Parker Coyle, Will McIntyre, Dylan Carter, all these experienced arms, a really talented freshman class with a couple blue chip arms in Gibler and Wiggins. On paper, Arkansas should be really good pitching. And that's why I feel like it's notable anytime any of these hitters, whether it's Brent Iredale or like Nolan Souza, Brenton Clark, Gabe Frazier, like whoever, it's notable when these hitters are able to have success because it's like, hey, we know Gabe Gackel's good. So when Gabe Gackel gives up 3 home runs to an Arkansas hitter, you're like, hey, that Arkansas hitter must be pretty damn good. That's a little bit of how I feel. But also, if I'm just being honest, these things are structured when you're facing your own team week in and week out. A lot of these guys face the same pitchers 5-6 times throughout fall, and then they'll face them a few more times in the spring. And so it's just kind of one of those things. I remember Kendall Diggs last year hit a home run off of Hagen Smith in a scrimmage, and he was like, I think that's the first time I've ever put a ball in play against Hagen Smith. Like, he was blown away by it. But the point is that these hitters see these pitchers a lot, especially the ones that are pitching every single week. And so, every now and then you'll see these guys kind of jump on a pitch. It's probably because they knew it was coming. They probably have just seen these guys' stuff. And anyone who's played baseball kind of knows the more you see a pitcher, the easier it is a little bit. Easier is relative, by the way. These guys are throwing 97. But I feel like it kind of is swung towards the hitters where they have a little bit of that advantage. With Oklahoma State, you're not going to have that. They've never seen Gabe Gackel before. Actually, they did see Gabe Gackel because he pitched against them in Arlington last year. But still, like, the point being, like, it's a little bit unfamiliar. Some of these arms are new, and you only get to see them for 1, maybe 2 innings. That being said, like, I just feel like it's set up for Arkansas to really kind of overwhelm Oklahoma State with their arms, and they have many of them. By the way, I didn't mention Christian Fouch when I listed off like 9 of those pitchers that Arkansas has coming back. Christian Fouch might be the best damn one in the bullpen. So I just mean, seeing the different skill sets that Arkansas has on their pitching staff, it should put them in a pretty good position to succeed. And Oklahoma State's going to have their fair share of guys as well. I believe they got their best pitcher back, Brian Holiday, who pitched really well against Arkansas last year. And so we'll see how it goes. Again, I have done absolutely zero research on what Oklahoma State's baseball is going to look like in October. So forgive me. I don't have the scouting report for you, but it will be fun to see Arkansas kind of match up with an opponent, and they'll play 2 games, 18 innings. So it's a fair amount of action. Again, small sample size. So let's not overreact if Arkansas doesn't hit the way we expect them to. They don't light it up. And even, I'm calling for Arkansas to kind of dominate the pitching aspect, even if they do give up a few runs. Like, it's not the end of the world. But I would really like to see Arkansas kind of flex their muscle on the mound a little bit, simply because we haven't gotten to see it a ton throughout fall because they're pitching at a little bit of a disadvantage. And so I would like to see that. And again, we mentioned that we talked about the starting lineup earlier. We went through the whole thing. Does that look the same? I should have mentioned at the top, Rocco Pepe, who I have as a kind of a lock for Arkansas to start in the outfield, the Fresno State transfer who started his career at Long Beach State. His name's frickin' Rocco Pepe. He's having a good fall. He's been good in his limited action, but he's been a little bit limited with an injury. As Sam Pittman would say, he has a hamstring. He does have a hamstring, and so it's kind of kept him out. They've been being smart with how they use him. Sometimes he'll only even participate in situational work. You get why they would be cautious with a 5th-year senior who's got a ton of experience, and again, is a guy that I'm kind of already projecting as a lock for the lineup. So I could see why they wouldn't want to rush him into action, but we'll see if he's able to get back out there. But if not, that kind of opens the door again for Brenton Clark, who, again, Kendall Diggs is another one that is not playing now as he's recovering from his shoulder surgery, who we expect to be in the lineup. And so, again, this isn't a definitive lineup, but I would like to see Brenton Clark get another crack in that outfield, see if he can make the most of it, and see what that looks like, man, and just see, if there's any other changes. Like I mentioned Michael Anderson, perhaps he gets in there at DH or first base or whatever it is. There's plenty of guys you can make the case for. Cam Kojal is sort of the one that, before the fall started, if you had told me he wasn't going to be in the lineup, I would have been a little bit surprised. Seeing as how it's played out and seeing how other guys have kind of risen to the occasion, it's not super stunning, but we'll see if there's any movement there, if he gets in there at first base or DH or whatever. I don't think he's winning that competition with Nolan Souza at second base, frankly. Nolan Souza's looked really good. But it's just, again, another opportunity for this lineup and that hierarchy to kind of form and develop right in front of our eyes. And so I can't wait to see what it looks like. And I'm sure they'll switch it up for the 2 games, maybe left, right, platoon a little bit. We'll see. There's room to experiment, and I hope they do. And I hope they get in as many position players as they can. And so we'll see what that looks like. But man, it's just going to be fun. And it's in Baum-Walker Stadium. And it's free. What more can you ask for? Hopefully the weather holds up and it's pretty good. So I'm looking forward to just seeing what that looks like. Another thing I'm looking forward to answering, Arkansas has been stealing an insane amount of bases. Like, I'll be honest, my buddy Andrew Hutchinson, who shout out to him, he does a great job covering the team for Best of Arkansas Sports, but he also is like our stats guru, and he helps compile all these stats. We all send him our play-by-plays when we go to the scrimmages. He's not able to go because he's got kids and he's an adult. But, me, I'm not. So I just get to go to these games, but he does a good job of compiling all the stats so we have full totals. And he sent me Arkansas's stolen bases. It's up like almost double from last fall, where just the rate that they're attempting to steal bases, and the catchers are starting to fight back and throw some of these guys out, which you love to see. Ryder Helfrich threw a couple guys out of Friday's fall classic, but Arkansas's stolen base rate is like through the roof a little bit, which DVH spoke about in the offseason or right after the season ended, saying he wanted this team to be a little bit more athletic. He didn't want to just be a home run or bust team, which I know has been a source of contention for a lot of fans that wanted to see that change. It seems like they're really embracing that. And I want to see, when you play an opponent, another team who has a different catcher, someone that, you don't see every day, and it's not an inter-squad scrimmage. It's a little bit different getting thrown out by your buddy Ryder Helfrich. When you're getting thrown out in this type of situation, I think people want to avoid that. And so is Arkansas going to be as aggressive on the base pass? And will it be something that is a real factor with this year's squad? I look forward to seeing that. And we're not going to get a definitive answer here on Friday and Saturday, but I look forward to seeing some of these things play out against an opponent. And I hope you guys are too. So if you're able to make it out to the stadium, if you're anywhere in the area, I highly recommend it. So come say hi and do that. But for now, I appreciate you joining me on today's episode of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. We'll be back Friday for a little bit of a dual episode with Curtis Wilkerson. Enjoy your day, Hog fans.